Hey guys, it's Lindsay from Chickadee Market. I just wanted to walk you through the garden this week. This week I have been busy in the garden digging posts, digging holes for posts to put in a perimeter fence around here, just to keep the chickens out, to keep neighbors' chickens from wandering into the garden and that kind of thing. Plus it's going to be really pretty, so I'm excited about that. Let's take a look around. There's not oh, the black flies are insane. I thought it would be a little bit better. It just downpoured rain, like the sky opened up and just dumped. So I thought now would be a good time, but maybe I was wrong. We are on a fairly busy, it's not really busy, but it's pretty frequent drivers. So you'll probably hear that from time to time. So there's not a lot planted in the garden yet because we're in zone 5A. So we're at the beginning of the growing season here, and I have decided to massively expand the garden from what it was last year. So I'm going to turn this way so you can see, and try not to get in the sun. So these are some raised rows that we started last year, and that's all I had planted last year. That is the extent. I had more of the area plowed by our sweet neighbor who came and did that for us. He was just so excited to see someone using this garden after so many years of no one living in this property that he was like, I'm gonna plow it for you, which was awesome. But I didn't know anything about growing last year. I didn't know anything about gardening. It was just fly by the seat of my pants, and this is what we got accomplished, and it was a great garden. It had a lot of produce for the area that we actually ended up using. So that really motivated me, and ever since then I've just been absorbing as much knowledge as I can, learning as much as I can, so that I can make this year's garden more successful and onward and upward from there. My ambition for this year's garden is really big. I have over 4 times the space now, hopefully dedicated to a garden than I did last year, and you'll be able to see that here in a bit. Let's start over here. So I have planted 5 raspberry bushes, and 4 of them are really taking off. One hasn't shown me any green yet, but these guys are really taking off, and these are gonna be the fall, what's it called? Gold fall raspberries, and I am really excited to show you guys more about that. So this is one I thought wasn't going to come up, and then it started growing. But then this little guy has not made any progress. I'm not sure what to do about that. And this guy totally has. So the fence line is going to come down this way, all the way down to that metal post, if you can even see that in this video. That's going to be the corner, and I'm going to do berries all along this area right next to the fence, and then start the vegetable garden. It'll have like a row in between, and the vegetable garden will be the rest. That's pretty much the only perennial thing will be the berries. The front yard of the house is going to be more the perennial. My asparagus is going to be over there, and flowers that are perennial, herbs that are perennial, all that kind of thing. And this is for the most part going to be the annual garden. I decided I'm probably not going to get the new system in place in time to use every bit of the garden, but I do have these rows, and mostly the weeds haven't come back because of how well I did at removing weeds during the growing season last year, and we didn't retill it. They're hilled rows, so as you can see, the weeds are coming in through the middle, but not on the rows themselves. So yesterday I planted this whole first row with potatoes, so hopefully we'll be seeing those start to sprout and come up. I'm so excited. I've never grown potatoes before. We will see what happens there, and you'll be along for the journey every week to see what's growing. Back here in the back right corner, I started a compost bin, and that will be 4 cubes around. As I fill that one up, I'll add another cube, etc., so that I'll have one to when it's time to flip them then I'll have somewhere to put it. So I've started a composting bin back there. That's the fence that's gonna go on too. And then I've started with these new garden beds. And so what I did was I did a layer of cardboard, and then this is compost that I got from our transfer station, and it was free. So check your local transfer stations. It could be called a dump. Ours is called a transfer station. It's where our recycling and our trash and all of that is. They also have giant mounds of composting, and it's free for the town residents. So we brought in several loads of that, and I will be back to get several more. Between the rows and around the perimeter, I'm using goat bedding that hasn't fully composted, but it makes a nice kind of straw mulch, hay mulch in between, which is really keeping down weeds. It's been awesome. So let's take a look at the plants. So I've got three kinds of radishes. I've got the Showa fruit radish and the Chinese meat radish, something like that. And then I have daikons. I've got spring onions and Spanish bulbing onions happening here. These I transplanted out. I grew them from seed inside the house and transplanted them out. The radishes, all the radishes I direct sowed into the compost here. So these are all onions coming up through here. And then these are, they're coming along pretty good. We're getting some new leaves. These are purple cauliflower. These are Wilhelmina's purple cauliflower. And if you saw that video of the ones that Wilhelmina and I started, these are all from them. So we've got, I think 26 out here, but they're looking really good. It's hard to see them against the compost because their stems are so dark purple and their leaves are so dark that it's hard to see, but they're doing pretty good out here. Come on, little guys. So that's good to see. I lost a few and replanted some. Leaves and seeds from the trees are falling onto my bed though. That's kind of a bummer. I have to trim back some trees so they're not falling directly on here. So this whole bed is the cauliflower, and it's hard to see all of them, but they're growing in nicely. These are sugar magnolia tendril peas, and they're kind of getting intertwined together. I thought I lost them at one point when I transplanted them. I thought that they had gotten killed off. It got really cold really quickly, but I'm glad to see that they didn't. But they are intertangling with each other, which is kind of a problem. I'll have to see if I can situate that out and get them up on this trellis, which is just a T-post and the thing that holds up a crib mattress. I had an old crib, so we just took that off and used it for a climbing trellis. Is there anything you want to say about your honeybee? No? Are you excited to have honeybees? Mm-hmm. Yeah? How excited are you?
Very excited.
He doesn't like to be in front of the camera. He likes to be behind it. All right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love you.
Love you.
So I'll take you to the next bed. These beds are, my goal is to have them 5 feet across with an 18 to 24 inch walkway in between. It kind of varies because I didn't really measure everything. Just kind of winging mostly. I did a pretty good job measuring the width of the bed. The aisles, not so much, but whatever. I'm not that worried about it. The kids helped me plant the first half of this part of the garden. And I'm really excited to see, we direct sowed these seeds, so I'm excited to see them start to come up. So here, Naomi planted some rainbow chard, and they're starting to come up, these little guys here, and these guys here. So this whole section is rainbow chard. And then we have some carrots coming up here nicely, which are these little spiky guys here. So here's the carrots. And then Wilhelmina sowed some purple lady bok choy. What happened to them? Oh, there's a couple. I think something was eating them. That's probably not good. So here's one right here. This is a little purple lady bok choy. There were more. Oh, there's just a leaf. Someone's been eating them. Dang it. They were doing so good. There's one over there. There's a couple down there. I could probably separate those. She accidentally put two in a spot. There's one right there. Oh, here's a little guy. Oh, give you some space. There's one right there. So we're gonna have some purple lady bok choy coming up in this spot. And then here we've got lettuce, 2 rows of lettuce. This is butter crunch lettuce, and I will either separate them out if I have more space in a different bed, or just eat some of them as microgreens. This obviously is too close for head lettuce, but I wasn't gonna let this go to head anyways. And then here I have Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce, and you can see some of it's purple, some of it's green, but that row mostly back and forth. These are some romaine lettuce, which is Luke's favorite. Ooh, that guy, that's not gonna bode well. What happened to you? What happened to you, friend? Let's get you back in there. I don't know what happened. That might die. Looks like he got broken over. These I bought as starts from a local place. I didn't have seeds of those, and they're Luke's favorite, so I just went ahead and grabbed some of those. We planted a row of flowers here. I believe these are blue disc daisies. Yep. My goal was to intersperse flowers in with the vegetables for the bees, for the beauty of it, and just to add some variety. Even though I have tons of transplants ready to come outside, massive amounts of certain kinds of things, I'm not going to plant them all together in the same place. Planting too much of one thing can, if you do have a pest, then they just go from one plant to the next and just demolish that whole crop. Whereas if I plant some kale here and some kale over there, and I do get a pest, maybe it'll hit one place and not both, because it, you know, there's distance for it to travel, things like that. So I'm taking groups, pockets, you know, some rows of some things, and then doing them in several places around the garden. We're just gonna try different methods. That's the best way to get better. Here I have some transplants of dinosaur kale that I planted for ransom. They did get, a lot of my plants did get leggy inside as I was growing them, but hopefully they'll thrive out here. I planted them as deep as I could. So I have about 24 or 25 dinosaur kale growing right here. And then the rest of this bed I just laid a couple days ago before it started to rain massively, so I don't have anything planted in that yet. Down here, you can see these big poles, and you're probably wondering, that's a really tall fence. It's not a fence. The fence actually will be back there. I'm going to do upright poles for my beans, my peas, my eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers, those tall climbing things. And I'll be using these same poles with 2 different methods. These poles, this row, it's gonna go all the way down to the end of the garden with these big poles every 8 feet. And these are for peas and beans. And these are not a tendril pea. I need to get them up off the ground. But I'll run cording around them, and as they get taller, the cording helps keep them in. And that's what I'm doing for my peas and my beans. And then later in another video, in another week's video, when I transplant out my tomatoes, I will show you what I do with those climbing things. Same pole system, just set up a bit differently for those different variety. As you can see here, the grass and the weeds are really short, and then you can see where it gets longer. We actually, we rotate, oh my gosh, if you have black flies, I feel bad for you, it's awful. I put my baby goats out here, so I got electric netted fencing and put it out here, and I had them eat down the weeds first. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna keep having them come through and eat the weeds until I get all the beds laid where I want them to go. It gives them food, and then it helps keep the weeds kind of manageable for me while I'm planting the other areas that I still have available to plant. I had them go through the rows here, and they ate all the weeds and everything out of between there, and then I'll come through and I'll put cardboard and mulch in the middle of the rows to keep those weeds kind of down there. And yeah, that's what I do. I rotationally graze the goats anywhere where I need. weed management. That's what I have growing out in the garden so far. It is just the end of May. Not even, I've got like maybe a week left in May. So it's pretty good. It's way better than what I had last year. I'll say that. Mother's Day was like the 19th of May last year, and that is what I wanted to do for Mother's Day, was to start on the garden. I have far surpassed where I was at this time last year, especially considering all the transplants that I have in the house that are just bursting and ready to come outside. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week with next week's garden tour. Hopefully I'll have more things planted and more of a fence going up so you can visualize the progress a little bit better. Until next time.